Okay, here we are reading Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, looking and studying and learning to approach God as mother, and with all that that entails, and to really try and hone our minds to recognize and honor. You know, in the Sanatana Dharma, they say that every time God incarnates, He incarnates as man and woman. And unfortunately, we spend all of our time with the boys and emphasize them, but always somewhere nearby is the divine feminine. And so with Ramakrishna, it was Sri Sharada, and there's Rama and Sita and Krishna and Radha. I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but each of them having their with Jesus, it was the Mother Mary. So all of these different ideals, God coming and presenting Himself slash herself in all of His many and her many forms to us, and so spreading our mind, opening our mind, and spreading our hearts, and to learn of God in a way that we can only see through the divine feminine, just that love of a mother for her child, and that understanding of how we are a part of God and are spawned of God, and that we have that intimate relationship. One that I've always been a little bit jealous is an awfully strong word, but curious about, intrigued by, of what it is for a mother to carry a child in her body and then manifest that child, and even having a body that then is nurturing and life-giving to that child. I just wonder what I was going to use the word attachment, but that probably wouldn't be too popular. But what that feeling of connection would be, and how wonderful it would be to have that resource in order to think of God through those eyes and through those terms, to have that kind of connection. And I guess in one way I've experienced it as the child part, but unfortunately I don't remember much of that. So I can't really draw on it. But to read and to understand as we study Sri Sharada's life, exactly how deep that love and attachment that God has for us. God is deeply attached to us, because attachment is not to be shunned. Oddly enough, Vivekananda says that detachment is not the ideal. The ideal is to have your powers of attachment matched by your powers of detachment, so that when it's appropriate, you can attach and love and feel and be compassionate and relieve suffering and be dedicated to someone's well-being. But when the time is right, or when the situation is proper, you're able to completely detach from that same situation. And so that's the ideal, that we can grasp and we can release with equal ease, because of our divine knowledge, knowing that there is nothing outside to hold on to, that we have everything within. So we're on chapter 14, Holy Mother and Western Women. And our little chant at the beginning is, O Sharada, O giver of spiritual knowledge, O you who always cover yourself with the veil of modesty, please always protect us from all sins. Salutations to you, O compassionate one. Yes, this veil of modesty, it's an interesting one. Mother says that the power of a woman lies in her modesty. And that's quite a different tack from what our culture seems to be running toward, where the power of woman is in the opposite. And so this might be a good pointer for us to grow from, and to honor and to understand, and to, I don't know, we're not going to jump in and talk about it because that's the fastest way for me to get in trouble. But I'll put it out there for your thoughts and conversation. All right, chapter 14. Everything in this world is subject to change. Science and technology are rapidly changing the world and human beings are adapting to those changes. Nowadays, people's education and upbringing, culture and behavior, way of life and style of living, food habits and style of dress, values and goals in life are quite different from those of people who lived in the 19th and early 20th centuries. As we study Holy Mother's life, we see that she lived according to the culture of ancient India. When Vivekananda's Western women devotees met Holy Mother, they were surprised to see how she lived. It was hard for them to believe that a woman who wore only one cloth, walked barefoot, kept herself veiled, and without formal education could conduct the spiritual ministry of the Ramakrishna order. You know, although this without formal education is true, but Sri Sarada educated herself and sought out an education so that she could read and practice. And so she was not illiterate. She could actually read better than Sri Ramakrishna could. So, but she did. She was the one who was the guiding wisdom for the first several years of the Ramakrishna order. And as we've seen and as we've talked about, that they would go to her for insight and for instruction and for direction on what to do and what not to do. And that really is how we learn of her compassion, how we learn of her open, broad mind. Because while she was raised as a very simple village woman, somehow within that, she managed to have a broad cosmopolitan mind that was able to accept foreigners in a way that was not common amongst the village culture in India. They would think that they would lose caste by having a foreigner, a malecha, which is actually less than a shudra. So on the on the scales of a caste, Westerners would be below an untouchable. We would be, because we don't even have caste. At least the Shudras would have a caste. And so Holy Mother was battling that kind of ingrained prejudice, but yet was able to fully overcome that, just so much so that not only was she able to tolerate and able to be with Western women, but she invited them into her home, into her heart, and there was a beautiful love and respect between them. And we see in Sister Nivedita's case, the effort that she also made to respect Indian culture and to see the beauty in it and to learn from its ancient history and to value it, and then completely and utterly subject herself to it. You see, with the way that she threw her life into India, there wasn't judgment on her part. There wasn't a sense of we know better, we the Westerners, which is quite often our hubris, that we tend toward in this on this planet anyway. But she also was able to meet Sri Sarada and see God, see the divine in her, and to offer her entire life at the feet of Holy Mother, and to then live for the uplift of Indian women. So it's really quite magical and something definitely to be learned from. Holy Mother's life is a meeting point of the ancient and the modern. She was born in a rural Indian village in the 19th century, and she passed away in the 20th century, Calcutta. From her very birth, she was endowed with divine qualities such as purity and modesty, love and affection, devotion and humility, forgiveness and compassion, truthfulness and simplicity, patience. I think we've stumbled on one of Chetanananda's writing techniques here, throwing together these pairs in quite lengthy lists of them. Patience and perseverance, faith and forbearance, renunciation and discrimination, service and self-control, courage and fearlessness. During her maturity, she conducted Ramakrishna's spiritual ministry, advised his disciples and devotees, became a mother to the Western women who came to Swami Vivekananda, and asked her disciples to learn English and encouraged girls to have a modern education. So we see there just her love and her devotion uh, were paired with a great modernity. That she saw the value of education, and she pushed against the ignorance of denying women an education and the possibilities of raising and improving themselves and bettering themselves. But that she really did that. She did that all out of such a deep love and such a deep concern, and at the same time was so meek and so mild and so humble, and yet was leading the Ramakrishna order, a men's order, that she was in charge of that. And I think there's a great deal to be learned from her, as the ideal of the feminine. In Dakshineshwar, Ramakrishna had a vision that he described to Holy Mother. I was in the land of the white people. Their skin is white, their hearts are white, and they are simple and sincere. It is a very beautiful country. I think I shall go there. Later, when Vivekananda and other disciples went to the West to spread Vedanta and the universal message of Ramakrishna, some Western women helped them immensely. Swamiji observed that one of the causes of prosperity in the West was education for both men and women, whereas women were neglected in India. He remarked, a bird cannot fly with one wing. He believed that both men and women were necessary to build a successful nation. I love that idea of seeing our relationship between men and women as each being a wing on the bird, that we both have different responsibilities, but are utterly, we can't be done without. Indispensable, there was the word that wouldn't come. That we are indispensable, and that we should learn to see each other with that eye of sameness in that regard, that we should have a deep respect for each other. And I think I think sometimes that fails from both perspectives. I think that men tend to objectify women, and that women tend to manipulate men, and both of those are acts of disrespect, and so that we should not be that way toward each other. We should see gender secondarily. First, we see the divine, and then we see the humanity, and then we see the gender. But we always build our actions on the first two, the divinity and humanity of each other. Swami Vivekananda wrote from America to his brother disciples, we must first build a mott for the mother. On the 25th of February, 1897, he wrote to his devotee, Sarah Bol, the widow of Norwegian violinist Ole Bol, my duty would not be complete if I die without starting two places, one for the sannyasins and the other for the women. Vivekananda wanted to give Indian women an education centered on Holy Mother. For this purpose, he received financial help from some Western women. Two Western initiated disciples, Margaret Elizabeth Noble, Sister Nivedita, and Christine Greenstidle, Sister Christine, dedicated their lives to educating Indian women. And when dedicating their lives means they moved there, they completely took on Indian culture, became fully aware of all of the customs and ideals, and submitted themselves to that, which to me seems like an amazing accomplishment. The use to that freedom and license of women in the West to then go and submit yourself to a much more restricted culture, that has much more rigid ideas of what men and women can and can't do, and also have a society built around enforcing it. And so this ability for Holy Mother to open to the Western ideal like that, and for these Western women to give up that Western freedom for this ideal, in service. All around, just really seeing the heart of people who are able to see what's important, that don't get themselves tripped up and caught up in this identity politics or this should and shouldn't politics, but really going for the heart and doing what is best, based on an ideal of love, based on an ideal of service. On March 17th, 1898, Mrs. Sarah Bull, Miss Josephine MacLeod, and Sister Nivedita met Holy Mother at 10-2 Bospara Lane in Calcutta. Although they did not know Holy Mother's language, they communicated through the language of the heart. Holy Mother received them affectionately and treated them as her daughters. When they were served refreshments, Miss MacLeod asked through a translator, "Won't you eat with us?" Holy Mother readily agreed. That was another custom that she broke, to eat with people that were not of her caste, and to accept them into her home, and then to treat them as her very own daughters, and to do it so readily. Mother readily, even eagerly agreed to that. And so you see here that it wasn't mother wasn't struggling with doing these things. It was already in her heart to be that way. That's how she saw the world. And you see that in many instances in her life. You see some other instances where some of the young men are being a little bit prejudiced against some of the Westerners, and Holy Mother scolds them, saying, "Are they not also my children?" And I'm always touched by, like, up here where Ramakrishna comes to the land of the white people. Sometimes I feel a little insecurity in the reputation of the West. Some of the violence that we've perpetrated, and some of the societal breakdowns that we've perpetrated, and whatnot, and the hubris with which we present ourselves to the rest of the world. That's my own internalized feeling about being a Westerner. But to see what Ramakrishna saw, that he came and he actually gave us credit, which I was amazed at, of having pure hearts, and just this, even in him, seeing that non-judgment, seeing that vast openness, that welcoming, that not only did Sarada take us in as her daughters and sons, but Sri Ramakrishna equally saw and see us that way, and wanted to come. So I'm curious when he says, "I think I shall go there." I'm wondering if that meant he came with Vivekananda, which of course would seem like at least a possible interpretation, and that now he is here. He's right here in my room. He's right there in your room. And he might be a little confused because I'm more pink than white, but he'll probably recognize it somewhere. When Swamiji heard about this, he was overjoyed and wrote to Ramakrishnananda, "Mother is here, and the European and American ladies went the other day to see her. And what do you think? Mother even ate with them. Isn't that grand?" Swami Nikhilananda explained how unusual this was. In general, she was very punctilious about observing Orthodox Hindu habits, especially in the matter of food, and avoided eating with people outside of her own caste. This partaking of food with foreign ladies was, as it were, a sanction given by her to Hindu society to accept and to absorb them into its field. After meeting these Western women, Holy Mother understood that the Master's vision in Dakshineshwar of white people had been realized. About this first meeting with Holy Mother, Mrs. Bull wrote, "We were the first foreigners to have received permission to see Sarada Devi, the widow of Sri Ramakrishna. She called us her children, and saying that our visit to her was of the Lord, she felt no strangeness in being with us. When I asked her to define the obedience to a guru, who in her case was her husband, she replied to the effect that when one had chosen a guru or teacher, one should listen to and obey all his directions for spiritual advancement. But in things temporal, one could most truly serve a guru by using one's best discernment, even if at times it was not in agreement with the suggestions given. You see, this is quite beautiful also. Your relationship with your guru is not one of just complete blind obedience, where you just fall down and do whatever they say and neglect your own inner understanding and your inner development. He says here, but in temporal ones, she says that you have her permission to use your own discernment, your own best efforts at discernment, and to follow those instructions, even if there's a slight disagreement with instructions given. Well, of course, that would be the exception. It's still a relationship of harmony and obedience, but it's also very important to see that your ability to develop your ability to think for yourself and to gain within yourself the wisdom of your own guru, so that you can guide your own life sincerely from within, and not just simply by a blind obedience on the outside. It is interesting to note how these Western women regarded Holy Mother. On the 22nd of May, 1898, Sister Nivedita wrote to her friend, Mrs. Eric Hammond in London, I have often thought that I ought to tell you about the lady who was the wife of Sri Ramakrishna, Sarada, as her name is. To begin with, she is dressed in a white cotton cloth, like many other Hindu women under 50. The cloth goes around the waist and forms a skirt, and then it passes around the body and over the head like a nun's veil. When a man speaks to her, he stands behind her, and she pulls this white veil very far forward over her face. Nor does she answer him directly. She speaks to another older woman in almost a whisper, and this woman repeats her words to the man. In this way, it comes about that the master, Vivekananda, has never seen the face of Sarada. Added to this, you must try to imagine her always seated on the floor on a small piece of bamboo matting. All this does not sound very sensible, perhaps. Yet this woman, when you know her well, is said to be the very soul of practicality and common sense, as she certainly gives every token of being to those who know her slightly. Sri Ramakrishna always consulted her before undertaking anything, and her advice is always acted upon by the disciples. She is the very soul of sweetness, so gentle, so loving, and so merry as a girl. You should have heard her laugh the other day when I insisted that Swamiji must come up and see us at once, or we would go home. The monk who had brought the message that the master would delay seeing us was quite alarmed at my moving toward my shoes, and departed post-haste to bring him up. And then you should have heard Sharada's laughter. It just pealed out, and she is so tender. My daughter, she calls me. She always has been terribly orthodox, but all of this melted away the instant she saw the first two Westerners, Mrs. Bull and Miss McLeod, and she tasted food with them. Fruit is always presented to us immediately, and this was naturally offered to her. And she, to the surprise of everyone, accepted. This gave us all a dignity and made my future work possible in a way nothing else could possibly have done. There's so much to say in that. Because isn't it true, there's so many people that have come to Vedanta through the Divine Mother because there was no other way for them to come. That this that her sincerity, her earnestness, her innocence, her sweetness, her love, that it wasn't a practice for her to see us as her children. It was her reality. That's what she saw when she looks at us. It's not an imposition, a superimposition that she has to put it over and look at us, in a way that she knows is right, but rather it was the mother. It was the universal mother recognizing her children. The letter continues. Then you should see the chivalrous feeling that the monks have for her. They always call her mother and speak of her as the Holy Mother. and she is literally their first thought in every emergency. There are always one or two in attendance on her, and whatever her wish is, it is their command. It is a wonderful relationship to watch. I should love to give her a message from you, if you care to send her one. A monk read the Magnificat in Bengali to her one day for me, and you should have seen how she enjoyed it. She really is, under the simplest, most unassuming guise, one of the strongest and one of the greatest of women. Holy Mother and Josephine MacLeod. Ms. MacLeod met Holy Mother many times. On one occasion, she went to Calcutta to pay her respects to the Holy Mother. She watched as the Indian women devotees bowed down to the Holy Mother, touching her feet with their foreheads. Miss MacLeod stood there for a few moments, unable to decide how she should pay her respects. Holy Mother caught her eye with a slight movement of the hand, and with a slight movement of the hand indicated that Western devotees need not follow the Hindu customs. All right. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? So, you don't have to wear a sari to the center. You don't have to do your Ashtanga pranams, when you meet the Swami, that you can be completely Western and give your respect in the way that you show your respect. This is a very important teaching, and it's one that I feel very strongly about, because this has gone too far in the other direction. When I see people showing up at the center in Indian clothing, and whatnot, it's a bit much. It's a bit much. Be who you are. Our Vedanta is not a dress-up occasion. It's not a costume party and not a pretending party. It's an earnestness and sincerity party. And so be who you are. Be natural to yourself. And the customs, don't you worry about them. You go forward boldly as you are, even if you feel like a bull in a china shop. Be a loving bull in a china shop. Miss MacLeod stood there for a few moments, unable to decide how she should pay her respects. Holy Mother caught her eye, and with a slight movement of the hand, indicated that Western devotees need not follow the Hindu customs. Miss MacLeod was impressed with the Mother's common sense, which she later spoke of as one of her most impressive characteristics. Swami Vivekananda wanted his Western followers to see some other spiritual role models. So one day he sent Mrs. Bull, Miss MacLeod, and Nivedita to Kamarhati to meet Gopal Ma, who had the vision of baby Krishna or Gopala. She received them cordially and kissed them. As she had no furniture in her room, they sat on her bed. Gosh, another very intimate violation of protocol, that a holy woman would allow anybody else to sit on her bed, and that they would dare to do such a thing. It's quite just, of course, you have to go through and experience these things. I mean, there's an intensity to these things that as we read them in a letter, at this point, while sitting comfortably in our, Western homes, I don't think we quite understand the extent to which this is a huge deal, a huge deal. I mean, I've spent a year in India, and I know how deep these feelings go. I mean, I've experienced the other side of this. I've experienced women who weren't Holy Mother, who I was on the train with for almost 20 hours. And in that 20 hours, not a hair of anything that they owned touched anything that I owned, and this woman and her young son sat across from me on the train, and I offered a piece of chocolate to that young boy, and he started to reach for it, and the mother slapped his hand and then slapped him and turned his head, and for the next 18 hours of the 20 hours, that boy did not look at me. Did not look at me. So you see, that's the intensity of the converse side of what is being manifested here. So understand a couple of things from that. One is that this is amazing, and two, that Mother did it naturally and from her heart. that her devotion and her eye of wisdom, her eye of the divine, that she saw, her divine vision that she saw, was so much greater than the eye of a body mind. That you can see what it is to know your nature, to know yourself to be divine, and to see it to an extent where it's greater than some of your most huge obstacles. That this is the result, for Holy Mother, not so much the result of practice, but of knowing, but certainly the practice of allowing that to manifest so clearly and so freely. Golap Ma received them cordially and kissed them. As she had no other furniture in her room, they sat on her bed. She served them puffed rice and sweet coconut balls and shared some of her spiritual experiences with them. When they returned to Calcutta, Swamiji said, "Ah, this is the old India that you have seen, the India of prayers and tears, of vigils and fasts that is passing away." In the middle of the November in 1898, Mrs. Bull and Mrs. MacLeod came to Calcutta and stayed with Nivedita in her house at 16 Bospara Lane. Holy Mother was staying nearby at 10-2 Bospara Lane. One day, Mrs. Bull asked Holy Mother to consent to having her photo taken, but she declined. She was too shy to go to a studio and to unveil her face in front of a photographer whom she did not know. Then Mrs. Bull said to her, "Mother, I wish to take a photo to America and to worship it." Then Holy Mother consented. She went for the highest ideal there. But I want to worship that picture, Mother. I think of God when I think of you. Asking only that the photographer be a woman. When no female photographer could be found, an English photographer named Mr. Harrington was hired to come to Holy Mother's residence. Before he arrived, a black screen was set up as a backdrop on the wall of an attic room, and Holy Mother was seated on a fur asana, a small rug, over a cot. 2 tubs containing a palm plant and a fern were at either side of her. Nivedita, Mrs. Bull, and Golap Ma arranged her cloth, hair, and veil. When the photographer came, Holy Mother cast her eyes down and went into an ecstatic mood. That was the first photo taken of Holy Mother. She regained her normal state after some time, and the photographer took the second photo, which is now worshipped everywhere. A third photo was taken with Nivedita sitting and facing her. Holy Mother was then 45 years old. Devotees of the Holy Mother should be grateful to these Western women for arranging to have these photographs taken. So Appendix 1 has more information if you want to read it. Years later, when she saw her own photo, Holy Mother commented, "Yes, this is a good picture, but I was stouter before it was taken. Yogan, Swami Yogananda, was very ill at the time. I grew thin worrying about him. I was very unhappy. I would weep when Yogan's illness took a turn for the worst, and I would be happy when he felt better. Mrs. Sarah Bull arranged this photograph. At first, I didn't agree to it, but she insisted and said, 'Mother, I shall take this picture to America and worship.' At last, the picture was taken." Nivedita wrote about this historical occasion. That photograph was the first time she had ever looked at a grown-up man outside of her own family or been seen by one. You see the intensity of what she did, you know? The first time, even Vivekananda had never seen her face, and he had grown up with her since he was a young teen, you know? And so this was the first time that a man outside of her own family had ever seen her, that she had ever lifted her veil to see their face. Miss MacLeod remarked of Holy Mother's picture, "That's Sarada Devi. She hadn't been seen by a man in her life. Mrs. Bull and Nivedita wanted to have her picture. I asked her, 'Mother, will you be agreeable to sitting in front of the camera?' She agreed. Oh, what an utter self-control. She was so calm. but she didn't care for this kind of pomp at all. Years later, Miss McLeod had a wonderful experience regarding Holy Mother's divine presence. One day she went with Swami Nirbhayananda to pay her respects to Holy Mother at her Calcutta residence in Udbodhan and returned to Bellarmine at dusk. After attending the Vesper service at the shrine of the Mat and spending a little while in meditation, she was going back to her quarters at the guest house, accompanied by a brahmachari with a lantern. She was walking slowly, absorbed in thought, when the brahmachari heard her say to herself, "I have seen her. I have seen her." Then she whispered to him, "The Holy Mother, I have seen her." She walked all the way to her room, muttering the word "mother," and added some other words that her companions did not understand. Holy Mother was fond of Miss McLeod and called her Jaya, and her sister Betty Virjaya. On another occasion, Miss McLeod wrote in a letter, "I asked the Holy Mother about meditation and how to do it. She said to think of the divinity in Swamiji, but I said that in ordinary life he was uppermost always in my mind, but in meditation I purposely excluded him." This astonished her. But she said that Ramakrishna had said it had taken the power of 7 sages to make Swamiji, and that in Ramakrishna the power of the sages had brought him down to earth. Miss McLeod loved to talk and was free with Holy Mother. She later related to Roman Roland a conversation she had once with Holy Mother regarding the difference between Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. As they had no common language, someone always acted as an interpreter. Through the interpreter, Miss McLeod said to Holy Mother, "Your husband had the best part. He only had to speak sweet words in India among his fellow men. That is why it was a joy for him. Vivekananda's mission was more painful. He had to be a propagator of Indian thought abroad among strangers and hostile people. His role was the more heroic." "Yes," the mother answered. "Swamiji was the greatest. My husband used to say that he was the body and Vivekananda was the head." Miss McLeod also told Romain Roland about Holy Mother herself, saying, "The Holy Mother had a natural affinity with Western women, able to speak with them on any subject, and had a simplicity, a fineness, a delightful disposition. Just as pure as Ramakrishna or Vivekananda, she was all the while living a holy life and at the same time capable of being interested, with the joy of a child, in the attire of her European friends. Her great valor, however, was not recognized in her own village, where she did not show that she was any different from other women." Holy Mother and Sarah Bull. Mrs. Bull was a wealthy and generous woman. She helped the Ramakrishna mission and Nivedita's school financially, and in 1907 she began to send 60 rupees per month to Holy Mother. In 1910, when Mrs. Bull was seriously ill in America, Holy Mother was concerned and dictated a letter to her. The letter was written by Nivedita, and Holy Mother signed it with the Bengali word Ma. I've actually seen that letter. Yes, I think, I'm not sure if it's this exact letter, but we have a letter in the archives in the San Francisco Center where Ma wrote in her own hand, signed it to Ma. It is noteworthy that Ramakrishna never wrote any letters, but Holy Mother dictated hundreds of letters to her Indian and Western devotees and disciples. Many of those letters are presented in chapter 27. Here is an excerpt from the letter to Sarah Bull, written on the 28th of July, 1910. "Mother, hearing that you are very ill, I am very anxious about you. I heard from your daughter Nivedita that you are a little better. I am praying to Thakur, the Lord, for your speedy recovery. I have offered on your behalf to the feet of the Master a tulsi and a bell leaf, and 3 evenings sitting before him I have prayed for you. Please give Miss McLeod my warm blessings, and do not forget Christine if you see her. And now from our Lord, I am sending you a flower and sandal dust, which I offered to him with worship. My deep love and blessings you will realize. Your mother. It seems that Nivedita left India in October of 1910 for America to see Mrs. Bull during her illness, and also to raise funds for her school in Calcutta. Like the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Nivedita was aware of Holy Mother's spiritual greatness. One day she went to a church in Boston where she saw the Madonna as Holy Mother. On her return home, she noted down in her diary, went to church, saw Sarada Devi as Madonna. Her presence will sanctify. And she immediately wrote a letter to Holy Mother on the 11th of December, 1910. What a wonderful realization. I talk a lot about Ramakrishna and all the avatars always being the same individual. And here we have evidence that also Mother is always present. It's the same Mother that comes in many different forms to us. Immediately, she wrote a letter to Holy Mother on the 11th of December, 1910. Beloved Mother, this morning, early, I went to church. Just a minute. Sorry. This morning, early, I went to church to pray for Sarah. All the people there were thinking of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and suddenly I thought of you. Your dear face, your loving look, and your white sari and your bracelets, it was all there. And it seemed to me that yours was the presence that was to soothe and bless poor Sarah's sick room. And do you know, I thought I had been very foolish to sit in your room at the evening service to Sri Ramakrishna trying to meditate. Why did I not understand that it was quite enough to be a little child at your dear feet? Dear Mother, you are full of love, and it is not a flushed and violent love like ours and like the world's, but a gentle peace, a peace that brings good to everyone and wishes ill to none. It is a golden radiance full of play. What a blessed Sunday that was. A few months ago, when I ran into you, the last thing before I went to the Ganges and ran back to you for a moment, as soon as I came back, I felt such a wonderful freedom in the blessing you gave me, and in your welcome home, dearest Mother. I wish we could send you a wonderful hymn or a prayer, but somehow even that would seem too loud, too full of noise. Surely you are the most wonderful thing of God, Sri Ramakrishna's own chalice of his love for the world, a token left with his children in these lonely days. And we should be very still and very quiet before you, except indeed for a little fun. Surely things of God are all quiet, stealing unnoticed into our lives. The air and the sunlight and the sweetness of gardens and of the Ganges. These are the silent things that are like you. Do send to poor Sarah the mantle of your peace. Isn't your thought now and then of the high calm that neither loves nor hates? Isn't that the sweet benediction that trembles in God, like the dewdrop on the lotus leaf, and touches not the world? Ever, my darling Mother, your foolish cookie, Nivedita. Wow, that's a sweet letter. Beautiful. Holy Mother and Sister Nivedita. Holy Mother's relationship with Nivedita was sweet and touching, yet awe-inspiring. From the very beginning, Nivedita occupied a special place in the Holy Mother's heart. During Nivedita's first visit to Holy Mother, Swamiji was a bit apprehensive. Holy Mother had been born and brought up in an Orthodox Brahmin family in the village. She was not familiar with Western etiquette, and she did not know English. How would she receive his Western disciples? Swamiji sent his disciple Swami Swarupananda as an interpreter. When Swarupananda brought Nivedita to Holy Mother, she asked her name. Nivedita replied, "My name is Miss Margaret Elizabeth Noble." Swarupananda translated Holy Mother's Bengali. "My child, I shall not be able to utter such a long name. I shall call you Kuki," or baby. Nivedita said joyfully, "Yes, yes, I am the mother's baby." She then went to Swamiji and said, "Mother blessed me, touching my head, allowed me to bow down to touch her feet, offered prasad, and said that she would call me Kuki." Swamiji was overjoyed. Nivedita began to learn Bengali from Swarupananda so that she could speak with Holy Mother directly. In the beginning, despite Golap Ma's opposition, Holy Mother kept Nivedita in her residence at 10-2 Bospera Lane so that she could teach Nivedita Hindu manners and customs. She ate her meals with Nivedita and encouraged her activities for women's education. At Swami Vivekananda's request, Nivedita moved to 16 Bospera Lane and started a school for girls. On the 13th of November, 1898, Holy Mother inaugurated the school, saying, "May the Divine Mother of the Universe bless this school. May the girls trained here be ideals for society." Almost every day, Nivedita visited Holy Mother and took the dust of her feet. Every Sunday, she cleaned Holy Mother's room, dusting the bed, sweeping the floor, and polishing the glass panes in the doors and windows. Nivedita had taken on this work as her own duty. She was eager to provide even the smallest service and comfort to the mother. Nivedita was financially supported by Mrs. Bull and Miss McLeod. She did not have much money, but she loved to give gifts to Holy Mother. On the 24th of February, 1904, Nivedita wrote to Miss McLeod after Holy Mother had returned to Calcutta from the visit to Jairambati. "The Holy Mother is here, so small, so thin, so dark, worn out physically, I should say, with village hardship and the village life, but the same clear mind, the same stateliness, the same womanhood as before. Oh, how many comforts I would like to take her. She needs a soft pillow, a shelf, a rug, so many things. She is so crowded with people about her always. I would like to give her a beautiful picture, a piece of bright color, but I suppose one must wait. Meanwhile, there is not a change in her." Sarala, later Prabrajika Bharatiprana, was a student at Nivedita's school. She recalled a memorable visit that Sister Nivedita paid to Holy Mother in Udbodhan House. After Holy Mother's return from Jairambati, one afternoon, Sister Sudhira and I went to see her in Udbodhan House. Sister Sudhira remarked, "Mother, you've become very dark and lean." "Our village is in the open fields, you know," the mother replied, "and so the complexion becomes dark. In addition, I had to work hard there." Meanwhile, Sister Nivedita came, bowed down to the Holy Mother, and took her seat. Whenever Sister Nivedita visited the mother, I watched her sit absorbed for a long time in front of the mother. Look at this picture. Holy Mother and Sister Nivedita sitting together. Can you even imagine such a privilege? My Lord. In addition, I had to work hard there. Meanwhile, Sister Nivedita came and bowed to the mother and took her seat. Whenever Sister Nivedita visited the mother, I watched her sit absorbed for a long time in front of the mother. She would bow down to the mother with full prostration, and an indescribable wave of bliss would flow over her entire face. She seemed a joyful child, closely looking at the face of her mother. Once the mother presented sister with a palm leaf fan that had woolen lace around the edges, which had made herself. Receiving that fan from the mother's hand, she was beside herself and exclaimed, "This fan has been made by Mata Devi, and she's given it to me." This she repeated again and touched that fan to her head and to her chest and to those who were present there. Sister Nivedita touched that fan to their heads, including myself. Observing her exuberant joy, the mother remarked, "Do you see how Nivedita is thrilled having this trivial thing? Oh, how simple she is, and what deep faith she has, as if she is a goddess. How much devotion she has for Naren, because he was born in this country. She has left her home, she has left her family, and she has come to do his work with her heart and soul. What devotion to the Guru, and what love for this country." All right. One day, Nivedita told us that Holy Mother would visit our school and we should enjoy the festive occasion. She was anxiously running to and fro like a little girl. Holy Mother's carriage arrived in the afternoon instead of morning. Radu, Golap Ma, and others were with her. As soon as she got down from the carriage, Nivedita prostrated to her and led her to the prayer hall. She gave us flowers to offer at Holy Mother's feet. The mother asked the girls to sing a little. They did so and recited a poem composed by the poet Salalabala Sarkar. Holy Mother listened to it and appreciated the poem. Then she took a little sweet and asked Sister Nivedita to distribute the prasad to us. Afterward, Nivedita took the mother around and showed her the whole house and the handicrafts of the girls. The mother was very pleased and remarked, "The girls have learned well." Later, Nivedita took the mother to her own room for a rest. It was due to her acquaintance with Holy Mother that Nivedita developed an exalted opinion of Indian womanhood. One day, by the by, Sharat Maharaj said, "After all, our women are ignorant and unlettered." Nivedita interrupted him immediately and forcefully contradicted him, saying, "The women of India are by no means ignorant. In that country," referring to the United Kingdom, "has one ever heard such words of wisdom from women as one does here?" Yes, indeed. All right, we'll stop there for today.